final year students at the University of Reading have put together a virtual exhibition of their work. That's in place of their normal annual degree show because of the pandemic. Usually, of course, there'd be a physical exhibition with the young artists there and their families and friends and university lecturers mingling and marvelling at their many creations. But on Friday of last week instead, the students revealed their work as part of a show called Asbestos Streams, which was streamed on social media. And of course, the upside to this is that the general public can see it as well at the same time as the great and the good. I chatted to two of the artists, Clémence Muller and Christine Joanna Glover, both of whom were displaying their work. And I started by asking Clémence to tell us about her finals piece.
So I do sculptures, freestanding sculptures, which are mostly made out of metal, plaster, and other materials such as fabric, thread. And my research is mostly about materiality, so I try to expand all the materials to like the most of their qualities that they can, basically. So that's why I try to use gravity and balance and tensions between different materials to create interesting sculptures, basically.
And this is like your final piece that counts heavily towards your degree, is that right?
Yes, that's right. So after 4 years, I've put together basically a portfolio. And due to the current situation, I had to, instead of making one big final sculpture, I basically made a lot of different small sculptures, which went towards a portfolio.
Right.
So created a collection, yeah.
So the situation we find ourselves in dictated what you could do, but did you also use that as your inspiration to any degree for what you were doing?
Yes, definitely, because so obviously with the constraints of everything, I was lucky enough to have enough materials, but with the constraint, I had to rethink outside the box, which actually created a sort of challenge, but that I embraced in a way, because I was able to look at different artists and different ways that I could expand my practice. So it's actually good.
Right. So what have you actually ended up with then? How many sculptures have you got? How large are they? And what are their various forms and what do they say?
So basically I have two collections of about maybe 12 to 15 works in them.
Yeah.
And one of the collection is called Mini Studio because I basically made a mini studio maquette out of cardboard. Within which I was able to put my sculptures with the different materials.
Right.
And then the other one was garden work collection. So it was much more the sculptures to a bigger scale and interacting within the suburban garden, so within the environment.
So with the first set then, the average size of each of them would be what, roughly?
The studio is about 50 centimeters by 40 centimeters. Sorry, Europe.
No, we can. It's all right. 2 and a bit centimeters equals an inch. We all know that by now, so we get an idea of that. And the garden ones, how big are those?
I think the biggest I've made is probably 1.40 by 1.50, and the highest is probably 2 meters or something.
Oh, 2 meters, so substantial stuff, yeah. And these are figurative or abstract or somewhere in between or what?
Yeah, so I would say they're very abstract and very conceptual because within my research I talk a lot about the materials in itself. So, for example, plaster, throughout my this final year I looked at how plaster as a liquid becomes solid, so obviously it takes different shapes depending on what sort of cast you pour it into. So it's a lot of ongoing investigation, I guess.
Yes. And how nervous are you at this point? Because with the best will in the world, an art exam is never going to be like a maths exam where there's a definitive answer. There must be a degree of subjectivity, even in very experienced tutors grading degrees, basically. So how are you feeling about all that?
Well, obviously I'm a bit nervous, but it's been 4 years. It's a 4-year degree that I've done because I do art history at the same time.
Right.
And it's a joint degree. So after 4 years, I feel like they teach us to be independent and aware of what we're being assessed, so that we are able to do like the best of what we can do, basically.
I'm sure they'll see what you're getting at, and you'll do fine. But let's have a word with Christine now. A very different style you've been working with. You've got a house of cards, and each of those cards is a portrait that you have painted of someone you know. Correct?
Yeah, of course. I've created a house of cards, which is quite different to what I was used to in the studio space.
So how many portraits did that require then?
So for the current house of cards, I have 15 portraits.
Mm-hmm.
And they range from like different colors, like they range from different people that I know in like my friend group, I guess.
Right.
So right now it's 15 portraits, but I'm looking into expanding it to make it a full deck of cards, if that makes sense.
It does. So I just worked it out in my head there. At the moment, then, you've got one triangle on top of two on top of three. That would be 15 cards, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it's not really tall quite yet. So it's kind of like a work in progress.
And why do that? What is, apart from saying here are lovely portraits that I'm quite good at? Why the House of Cards idea?
So basically, I was looking at how fragile the situation is right now, currently in the world with all the events going on.
Yes.
And we have a system that's quite fragile, but yes, still in place. So I thought a House of Cards, even though it's fragile, it's still very stable. And anything can happen, and that can fall apart really easily. Exactly what happened to the world right now. So we had the pandemic, and no one was waiting for a pandemic to happen. Mm-hmm. So it kind of like destroyed our everyday life, if I might say that. And now through a House of Cards, I'm building up my inner world, and I'm kind of like reconstructing it and kind of seeing where my stability is as a person and seeing who is around me and how I'm still stable even though we went through the pandemic. Actually, it's been quite interesting because I've changed my bedroom to become my studio right now. Right. It's quite an experience, kind of like having my home being also my studio. So it's like both of my worlds coming together. So it's been a very wonderful experience, but also quite lonely. So I'm quite glad that we've stayed online and we've kind of formed a community.
And you two know each other quite well, do you? Do you have lots of classes together, Clémence?
Yes, we actually have, because we're both studying art and art history together.
Oh, yes.
So we have had most classes together throughout the years. We even went on an art history trip to Berlin 2 years ago.
Right.
Yes, it's good.
do you feel a bit shortchanged, though, that you won't be able to put on a posh frock and drink glasses of wine and, hug everybody for this exhibition? You must do.
Yes, obviously we're all, I think, very frustrated, but we definitely are trying to make the most of it. So hopefully the celebrations today are going to be good.
Yeah, and you'll have an actual one in due course, of course. Yes.
Our tutors are really looking forward to welcoming us back potentially at the end of 2020 in December to potentially put another show together. It'd be nice.
That will be nice. Christine, what's the long-term aim then once you've got your degree safely under your belt? What are you going to do with your artistic study and talent?
Well, basically, I'm looking into different options about the future, but definitely now I'm really focused about what we're doing tonight. And other than that, I'm really excited to do a master's or go into work, and I'm looking into studying art therapy.
Art therapy, you think that could be the way forward, right? And Clémence, a professional sculptor, is that the dream?
No, it's actually not necessarily. Although I love doing my practice, I want to do it a different way. So I've actually got into a job for next year where I'll be working in an institution that works with children with severe autism. And yes, and during that time, I will have the opportunity to potentially put in place an art class. So it's ideal.
Fantastic. Now, after tonight is been and gone, we can presumably still visit the site and look, can we?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so the details of it are finally... Christine, tell us where do we find it? What's the address?
So basically you go on Facebook or the website asbestosdreams.com, and then you will find the live stream over there, and it will be broadcasted and it will be saved on our website and on the Facebook page as well.
Art at University of Reading.
Great job. Thank you both so much. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you for talking to me.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
It's also on YouTube. You want the Asbestos Streams YouTube channel to see the art that Christine, Joanna and Clémence and their colleagues have been getting up to. Here are Culture Club with the Church of the Poison Mind. BBC Radio Berkshire.